Hey, this is Lee Nevis, host of CJ and Cell. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
This is Rachel Mullins, host of #NoFilterFriday here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my new show, #NoFilterFriday, where we talk about all of the sexual misconduct allegations swirling around Hollywood. A new show drops every Friday at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of #NoFilterFriday. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Today, we remember. Love conquers all. Welcome to Choose to Rise. Welcome to Public House Media. For those of you in the podcast version, thank you so much for joining me here live on the live video here on Facebook. I appreciate you being here so very much. Today, as I record this, it is September 11th, 2019. And September 11th has a significant meaning in our country, in our world, and just in our lives. And it's so crazy for me to think about how my children will only remember this day by the words that I tell them, by the videos that I share, by the images that I give them from the days that were recorded, the things that were recorded around that time. And they've never experienced that day. And I hope that they never experience something like that again. But what really kind of boggles my mind is that they are always living in that kind of thing. Like, we keep saying we don't want something like September 11th to happen again, but yet it is happening all the time. There are mass shootings, there are wars, there are hate issues, there are all kinds of things that are happening constantly all the way around us. And it's up to us to figure out how to maneuver that. It's up to us to figure out how to stop those kinds of things in our world. And today I want to honor the men and women who were impacted by 9/11, who lost their lives in 9/11, who have been working so hard since that day to make change in this world. And I want to offer some thoughts, some opinions, some ideas on how we can help shape this world, specifically our country, but definitely this whole entire world can use a little more love in our world, and to kind of counteract the fear and counteract the pain and counteract the things that have been happening in our world because of this kind of action. And so first and foremost, thank you for being here. And today's episode is brought to you by Team Rise and Fit. We are a group of women who are rising up out of our current situation, living our best life. Tuesday nights, today's Wednesday, but Tuesday nights are always a powerful night for me. Mondays and Tuesdays, as we connect with our team, and they just energize me and they encourage me and they support me, and they are the epitome of what it is that we are trying to do more of in this world. And so I'm just so honored to be a part of it, and I would love for you to be part of it too. So if you're looking for a crew like that, let me know. But today we're talking about remembering. We're talking about love over fear. And I've had a couple things that have, this has been on my schedule for a while to talk about this day. It just makes sense that we talk about this day. And it's something that we should talk about more often, but there are just some pieces of information, some talks, some quotes, some things that have come up in my life that are clear connections for me that God is wanting me to share with you today. And so I just want to share those with you and what's on my heart today. So, today we as a country, as the United States, we honor the people that have been a part of this day. We honor the people that were a part of lost their life that day, that were impacted by that day, that were forever marked by 9/11. I was one of them. I did not have anyone personally in that building, but I remember specifically where I was the morning that I found out about this, where I was standing. I remember the morning just kept going, but yet it stood still, if that makes sense. I remember sitting in my dorm room watching on our tiny little TV, probably no bigger than my computer screen right here, of what was happening, what was going on. And the world just seemed to stand still, but yet it kept going. And being here in the middle of the country, there was all kinds of fear that came about. And that's really how humans react, right? When something bad happens, we react with fear. We react with pain. We react with being scared. And then all of those negative emotions continue to focus in on us. And while 9/11, something like 9/11 hasn't happened since then, I hope it doesn't happen ever again. There is still hate in this world. There are still fear in this world. There are still all kinds of things that are inflicting our country and our world, like mass shootings and wars and hate crimes and, acts of hate on our country and acts of hate on our families and things that are just happening all around us. And there's, from our recent teaching at our church, our pastor was talking about how exonophobia is so real in this world. And I couldn't agree more. Exonophobia, if you don't know what that means, it means a fear of strangers. And, from early on, we are all taught to fear strangers, right? Stranger danger, stay away from people you don't know, all those kinds of things. But when it really comes down to how we are going to, in my opinion, how we're going to stop these kinds of things happening in our world, how we're going to minimize their impact on these kinds of things, it's to respond in love. It's to respond in love and not fear. And love and fear cannot live in the same place. They are complete opposites of each other. And so if we can respond in more love, if we can see people, a lot of the people that are single acts of hate or single acts of things that are going on in this world, like a mass shooter goes in and does something, it's because they want to be seen. Something happened recently. I don't even know where it was because, gosh, they're happening all the time. But I remember working out and we were with the TVs usually on and we were watching the news as we're doing our workout. And my husband said to me, he said, why would that guy tell the FBI that he was going to go do this? It's because he wants to be seen. He wants to be heard. And in this world of super connected people, in this society where we have social media, where we have things like this that are having us connected all the time, we are watching, but we're not connecting. We're seeing, but we're not engaging with people. And so many times people just want to be seen. Everybody's kind of glossed over in the day. But what if we made real connections with people? What if we made loving connections with people? What if we looked at our friends and our neighbors and our strangers in this world? And what if we looked at everybody as a neighbor? Anyone that comes in our path is the definition of neighbor. And that's what it says in the Bible. Like love conquers all. Love and fear cannot live in the same place. And what if we looked at everyone around us, whether we know them or not, and looked at them as a neighbor in our life? Anybody that crossed our path, anybody that we come in contact with, what if we gave them the hospitality with no limits? And it made it our responsibility to know people around us and to connect with people around us and to really have mercy and really to have joy and really to have, passion and empathy for the people around us and to show compassion in this world. There is no limit to our ability to love. There is no limit to the people around us that we can show compassion for and love for. It's really easy to, donate money, to show up at a benefit, to, encourage someone that we know that is a part of our right here community, the people that look like us, the people that talk like us, the people that believe things like we do. But it's a lot harder for us for some reason to really connect with and show empathy for and to show care for the people that are not necessarily like us. And Jesus would call us to say that, the stranger they are to us, the more neighbor-like they should be. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, that was somebody that was a stranger. It was a foreigner. It was, he was connecting with someone on the side of the road that was not like him. And, from that kind of that story, we really need to think about, what is our hospitality like in our current world? Is it a requirement? Should it be a requirement? Jesus would say that hospitality is a requirement of our faith. It's not an option. You are invited by Jesus to love everyone, no matter who they are. All people matter to God. All people, right? There is no limit to our respect for others. There is no limit to who our neighbor is and how we should be working with them. Every life is sacred. And when we look at it that way, when we look at our strangers, when we look at the people that are in our current world and people outside of our world, and we can start to love on them more, then we will be able to diminish the pain and diminish the heartbreak and diminish the need to be seen by so many people that are acting out in such a way. Like when I think about even situations in my own house, and maybe this is like for you too, but like when my kids are acting out, it's usually because they've been ignored, or usually because they're not getting their way, or usually because they just feel like they're frustrated and they need to do something about it, right? And so when you think about how people are acting out in this world, it's because they're persecuted against. It's because they're not being seen. It's because they feel like they have to do something huge in order for people to notice them. And what if we took a proactive advance to this? And what if we said, hey, I see you. I love you. I want to encourage you. I want to support you. I want to help direct you towards someone who loves you unconditionally always. And, Hosea 6:6 says, for I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and acknowledgement of God rather than burnt offerings. What if he instead said, do this, go love, go live, go encourage one another, right? The Good Samaritan is the prime example of this, because it wasn't somebody that he knew. It wasn't somebody that was even of his own faith. It wasn't even somebody of his own country. And for him to step up and be so hospitable to other people, to someone else on the road, and even pay for the guy's medical needs and where he could stay and how he's going to come back and take care of him later, all of those things should be life lessons for us here. Right? The Good Samaritan is probably the most known story in the Bible, but it's, yes, the hardest one to put into practice for us, because the society breeds fear into us. And when you look at the news, when you see all the things that are out there, the stories that come up constantly are always breeding more fear. What if instead we were talking about more love, more compassion, more doing good in this world, right? What if we talked about more stories like the Good Samaritan in our world? Wouldn't love conquer all there? So many of us feel lost. So many people feel like the least of them. So many people feel left out in this world, and you can maybe include yourself in that, but hospitality is so much stronger than all of those feelings. And the greatest, this is the greatest opportunity for those of us of faith, and the greatest opportunity for our world is to start loving each other more, right? And so the greatest antidote to fear is love. The greatest antidote to being left out and not a part of something is to be included. And so what if we did that instead? What if we started including other people in our world? What if we started trusting other people? And what if you put your heart and your mind in focusing on being a part of something greater than that? Doug Tenson, our pastor, when he was giving this speech, the sermon, he was saying, hospitality is loving a stranger. The antidote of fear of stranger is a love of stranger. And what if we can start loving other people around us more, sharing more encouragement on social media, stop being a highlight reel and start being real with people, right? Instead of, putting people down or putting crazy memes out there, just trying to be funny. What if we shared some compassion? What if we made real connections instead of just that heart and like and love thing on there? What if we left meaningful comments for people and saw people for who they were, engaged with them in real life, and been a part of something together? The greatest thing that I can think of that we can do to the little me that's sitting here in my office today, the little me that is sitting here in my state, in my community as a parent, the best thing I can do, I have no control over the minds and the people around me, or the people from afar, the people that are creating some of these kinds of things. I don't know any of the people that have created hate in this world, but the one thing that I can do for my little place, I have zero influence on them, but the one thing I can do from my little place is show a little bit more love and show a little bit more encouragement and show a little bit more peace in my heart. And I can show a little bit more Jesus in me, and I can live a little bit more like him, and I can show a lot more mercy to the people around me. And those kinds of things will compound over time and have much more of an impact on this world, a more positive impact on this world than anything anyone can do in a single act with a gun or a bomb or any of those kinds of things. The greatest acts of love are when I see when bad things happen, unfortunate things happen in this world, and people respond out of love. When there was a young girl killed in our area recently, maybe a year or so ago, 2 years ago, she was out on a run and someone stopped her and murdered her. Her family came out of love in that situation. They didn't want her name to be out there and as like a victim. They wanted her to be as a strong, and they wanted people to show up in love for the person that did this. They wanted people to show up in love for the people around them, that we're not here to hate people, that we're here to love on people. And yes, bad things happen, but that doesn't mean that we need to respond negatively to them. Today's message is all about loving your neighbor. It's about being compassionate and loving everyone as God loves us, and let everything sink deep into that, right? Let other people know that you are of faith, that you are of love, and that you are of mercy, and that you are of kindness. And when we do that and we focus on those things, they will multiply. What you focus on, you create more of. So instead of focusing on fear today, instead of focusing on all the bad things that have happened on this day, instead of focusing on all the negative things that are happening in this world, let's instead focus on joy. Let's instead focus on the positivity of what we are able to impact. And let's today focus on the things that are going to be able to help us overcome the hate by increasing more love in our life. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a little bit longer than normal, but I really felt like it was something that I needed to share. And I will drop in the link here today, the sermon that was from our church. And so hopefully you can pick up something from it as well. It was very impactful on my heart, but it's something I definitely want to share with you. And anytime that we can really overcome these consequences of fear by having more love in the world, by having more joy in the world, we'll be able to create more positive change in our little world, but also in the world grander and bigger around us. So thank you so much for joining me today. And, this, obviously the podcast, I'm here live with you on Facebook. The podcast is going to come out on Friday, and it's going to seem weird that I'm talking about 9/11, but the more we can talk about love, the more we can talk about joy, and the more we can focus on those things, that's when we're going to have a lot more opportunity to go out and share that with other people. So speaking of sharing it with other people, if you felt compelled to do so today, I would encourage you to hit the share button on the bottom of the screen, about this video, and send it out to social media. Let's impact more people with joy. Let's impact more people with positivity. Let's help more people find Choose to Rise so that they too can rise up out of their current situation and live their best life. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to see you here again next time. Bye.